Alright, Shalom. First of all, I want to start this lesson off by giving all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushai, Bahashim, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to our brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere Akwath, which is the sincere sisters. And Shalom to all the scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and look like these heathen nations, particularly the members of the hopeful elect. Now, this lesson is going to be based on this apparent conditional ceasefire that has happened between Iran and the U.S. and how basically people will see that and think that everything is over when it's actually not. So through the Spirit, I'm going to read this article, get some precepts, and Lord's will, you're edified. It says, Iran and U.S. agree 2-week conditional ceasefire, but Israel launches new strikes on Lebanon. It says Donald Trump announces a 2-week ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran if shipping is allowed through the Strait of Hormuz. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says Tehran will agree to the end in fighting if attacks against Iran are halted. Here's what else Iran says is in the 10-point ceasefire plan, including compensation. It says Israel carries out new airstrikes in southern Lebanon on Wednesday morning and says the 2-week ceasefire does not include Lebanon, despite Pakistan's prime minister saying it does. Said the U.S.-Iran ceasefire was first announced by Trump about 90 minutes before his 2000 deadline for Iran to make a deal. Pakistan, which has been acting as a mediator, invites both sides for talks in Islamabad on Friday, while UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is traveling to the Gulf to discuss support for the ceasefire. As Iran is claiming a big victory, our Persian correspondent writes, yet no matter what it says, it is in a very weak position. It says oil prices have fallen sharply, but energy prices will remain elevated for some time, our correspondent writes. And, this article is from, the BBC, so those people, I think this is like a UK site, like news site. So, those are Edomites, so of course they're gonna try to make their fellow Edomite, aka Donald Trump, look like the good guy and say that Iran only agreed to it because, they're in a weak position. But in reality, if any side was in a weak position, it was the U.S. And also, the only reason why things have slowed down as far as this war is because that's what the Lord wanted. Because, let's be honest, the U.S. and Israel were losing. And they were losing badly. And the only way, and a lot of people mention this, the only way that the U.S. and Israel had any chance of winning was they were going to have to go nuclear. And the Lord isn't about to do that just yet because there's still a couple of prophecies that have to come to pass before things go nuclear. That's the only reason why things have slowed down. Not because, Trump is some, you know, big bad, tough guy who intimidated Iran and scared them into submission like these simple minded Americans, will believe. The Lord only slowed things down because the only other option that the US and Israel had, if they had any hope of winning this war, was to go nuclear. And we're not at that point yet. Because if the US and Israel were to nuke Iran, then these other nations would nuke the US and Israel, which is still going to happen. But then those few prophecies that have to come to pass before then wouldn't get the chance to. The Lord is all about order. He's all about things happening in the order in which He set it up. So the war is still very much on. Things have just slowed down a bit. Habakkuk 2:1. I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what he will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved. Verse 2. And the Lord Yahweh answered me and said, write the vision and make it plain upon tables, that he may run that readeth it. Verse 3. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Yeah, so basically, that vision of World War III, that vision of that nuclear destruction, it's coming. Like it says, though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. You see, the Lord is not a man that he should lie. If he says that something's going to happen, best believe he's going to make it happen, but it's going to happen in the order in which he set it up. I have the definition for tarry here. It says tarry means to linger, delay, wait, or stay longer than expected. And that's basically what's happening. This 2-week ceasefire is just a delay. The war, it's just, that nuclear destruction is just lingering. It says it often implies dawdling or postponing action, such as in the biblical sense of waiting for a promise or lingering in a place. And that's what's happening. We're just waiting for that nuclear destruction to happen. But those of us of the hopeful elect who have been blessed with the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of these scriptures, we understand that, there's a few prophecies like the famines, the pestilences, the civil war, the race wars, and ultimately that mark of the beast being implemented that have to take place first before the nuclear destruction. The nuclear destruction, that's the end. That's the last thing that has to happen. That's like the cherry on top of the cake. That's the ending of this part of the story. So when you understand that, there's some other steps that have to happen before the nuclear destruction, then it makes sense why the Lord has calmed things down a bit in this war. But But that nuclear destruction is very much still going to take place. Exodus 15:3. The Lord Yahweh is a man of war. The Lord Yahweh is his name. And that's right, the Heavenly Father is a man of war. That's why this started in the first place. And contrary to what a lot of people will say, particularly Edomites, the U.S. and Israel were, for lack of a better term, getting their ass handed to them out there. Those Iranians were dishing it out just as well as they were taking those hits. So the U.S. is not some big, bad, scary, nation. Those Iranians are not scared of Americans or of Israelis. Like that's just that, that American pride. They really believe that somebody is scared of them. The whole world hates the US and Israel. Nobody is scared of them. And the fact that for a while Iran was basically 2v1ing them, that's proof in itself. But we are still very much in a time of war. Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Jumping down to verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. And we are living in a time of war. You see, Israel may have calmed down with attacking Iran, but they're still attacking Lebanon. So there's still some action going on out there in the quote-unquote Middle East. Things may have calmed down on one front, but they're still popping off on the other front, because we're still very much in a time of war. So don't get comfortable thinking that it's over, because it's far from being over. And we'll see how long the Lord allows this ceasefire to last. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. Just a quick lesson through the Spirit, just giving an update as to what's going on in this particular situation. In closing, I want to give all the praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakudash, the water Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, for putting the Spirit on me to do this lesson. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Honors to all the brothers who are still fervently preaching the word in sincerity and in faith. Shalom to all the sincere Akwath out there. And shalom to all the hopeful elect scattered Israelites who are amongst these heathen nations and now look like these heathen nations. I hope you all stay strong, stay safe, stay fervent, stay circumspect, stay prayed up, and Adawan Ratazah. Until next time, Shalom.